Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Winston. Good morning, Keller. Hey, Keller's on time today. Good job, bro. All right, let's come to the charts. I got the energy today for making money. There you go. Well, today is Wednesday, and Wednesday tends to be a good day to make money. But we'll see. Here's the S&P 500 today. You can see yesterday, not so good, right? It started out okay. Pretty good bump there on the open. Trying to break yesterday's high and then just failing miserably. We continue to be stuck around this 3,900 area. Isn't that funny? I mean, we identified that like almost immediately that it was a significant level, and it keeps coming back to it. But we knew that because of options gamma. Anyways, there has been a little bit of a depressed risk tone in the Asian markets, but it hasn't been affecting the U.S. indexes as much. And more recently here this morning, after the London, we've popped up just a little bit. Market's actually moving pretty okay at the moment, so we may get some movement today. Treasuries continue to move back up, and we are getting a report that the majority of this selling was actually the result of end-of-year rebalancing from Japanese firms, where they have to dump some of their treasury holdings. So that suggests that we could move back up, and maybe, or at the very least, kind of trail off. So I wouldn't be surprised to see 133 again sometime in the next month, based on that information. Oil not doing so well yesterday, but coming back up overnight, and the whole commodities complex is just kind of all screwed up. Silver and gold flat, but they may be slightly higher. Silver just got pummeled yesterday. Not quite sure why. Copper up back a little bit, but global supply chains are getting disrupted by this huge tanker stuck in the Suez Canal, especially oil. So that is kind of affecting those markets right now. And of course, there's the semiconductor shortage. I don't know if it affects that, but watch oil bloodbath the last days. Yeah, it's been pretty whoosh. It's been pretty crazy over in oil lately, hasn't it? I can't keep up with it all. You oil traders that are really able to keep up with the oil news and understand it, I envy you. So it's not my area of expertise. You see, researchers found some kind of phenomenon that is shaking up the standard model and all? In physics? No, I didn't see that. GameStop Corporation fell nearly 14% before the bell on Wednesday after the video game retailer said it could cash in on a meteoric rise in share price to fund its e-commerce expansion. Yes, Winston, referring to the filing that they're going to offer more shares. So, and yesterday, the earnings, they didn't take any questions, which I thought was really funny. No questions, pretty standard call, and they were under the market expectations. So overall, did not look so good in GameStop, and when I looked at it yesterday in the aftermarket, it was doing dismal. At the top of the hour here, we'll check it. But I'm thinking here that GameStop is going to not do well. That whole thing is just a little crazy. There's a lot of disappointed people over on Wall Street Bets. Oh yeah, you know what? We never checked the dollar. Dollar important here. Dollar is up. Again, holding above 92 pretty well. So the euro has come down significantly due to coronavirus reopening hitches, we shall say. And good morning, Uzi. Okay, so I want to know, what were you saying about standard model? News. Intriguing new results from CERN challenge standard model of particle physics. Oh, we got some news coming here. I forgot. Durable goods. Manufacturing cells. Okay, so we're looking for a reading of spot 8. Let's move this over here. Okay, negative 1 spot 1 versus spot 5 expected. Worse than expected. Core 0 spot 9. Well, the market not reacting to that one too much, although I think that they might. It kind of looks like they want to buy it, though. I don't know. That's kind of weird. Let's just kind of hold off a little bit and read about intriguing new results from CERN. The new results from CERN's Large Hadron Collider Beauty collaboration suggest particles are not behaving the way they should according to the standard model. The standard model of particle physics provides precise predictions for the properties and interactions of fundamental particles, which have been confirmed by numerous experiments since the inception of the model in the 1960s. However, it is clear that the model is incomplete. The model is unable to explain cosmological observations of the dominance of matter over antimatter, the apparent dark matter content of the universe, or explain the patterns seen in the interaction strengths of particles. Too early to say if this is genuinely as a deviation from the standard model, but the potential implications are such that these results are the most exciting thing I've done in 20 years. The team compares 2 types of decays. First decay involves the electron and the second the muon, another elementary particle similar to the electron but approximately 200 times heavier. The electron and the muon, together with a third particle called the tau, are types of leptons. The difference between them is referred to as flavors. The standard model predicts that decays involving different flavors of leptons should occur with the same probability, a feature known as lepton flavor universality, measured by the ratio between the decay probabilities. The new results indicate hints of a deviation from 1. The statistical significance of the result is 3 standard deviations, which implies a probability of around 0.1% that the data is compatible with the standard model predictions. That's interesting. If a violation of lepton flavor universality were to be confirmed, it would require a new physical process, such as the existence of new fundamental particles or interactions. Oh, we should come over here. Well, interesting. It looks like the market's going to be fairly constrained here this morning again. It's just been like this for a while now, hasn't it? And I wonder what's going on. I mean, I know it's March, but I'm already starting to think about the summer. I'm already starting to think about the summer and what the market's going to be like this summer. You have no empirical evidence that particles exist. Yes, we do, actually. But, yes. Okay, so I'm wondering... Bitcoin. Oh, that's interesting. So when I woke up this morning, the headline I saw on Bitcoin was Bitcoin soars as Tesla confirms that you can buy a Tesla car with Bitcoin. And I look at it and I'm like, you guys are really reaching, aren't you? Yeah. They should just use a Bollinger Band. Oh my gosh. So you want to see something else? This frustrates me. I'm frustrated. If we come over here to Reddit and we look at my profile, And I created this thread. Oh, something went wrong. There we go. Oh, well, it got a couple of upvotes. That's good. So I created a thread in the algo trading subreddit where I said, hey, why don't you try making a strategy that trades against the RSI and see what you can come up with? So I went through and I posted the one that we did yesterday. This is what we had yesterday, a little bit optimized. With equal risk reward, I'm able to get it to 27,000 and a profit factor of 1.04, which isn't very good, by the way. I also did add risk management to it, so I'm going to say probably needs more work, or it probably needs a better... I do think that we could get something that works, but I'm going to bet that it's going to have more to do with finding another signal that happens than it will be the RSI. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Not too motivated to mess with that one so much anymore. But all of the comments, there was another comment that somebody left me that I don't know. Yeah, they hear this person says that this is reductive. The market isn't cohesive. Different traders use different strategies. Yeah. Which is why these patterns will continue to be reliable as heuristics. But the whole point is that they're not reliable. How come I can't see that comment? This is so what let's I mean, what do you think he means by saying this is reductive? So this was a different, tending to present a subject or problem in a simplified form, especially when viewed as crude? No, false. I'm going to respond to this guy. Is that okay? Oh, that's interesting that it did that. The brain center of all reality. I know, right? Let me rephrase that. Ancient texts say that upon submitting your first comment on Reddit, your IQ rockets up 103 points. Right. It's just, I don't get it. Anyways, to my other thread, I only got one response. I was like, post a strategy. Ain't nobody done it yet. I bet you nobody's going to do it. Angela Merkel says British variant is proven to be more dangerous to young people. Am I the only one that finds it really odd that all of the European countries are like going back into lockdown so easily? People close to Biden tell Axios he's feeling bullish on what he can accomplish and is fully prepared to support the dashing of the filibuster to allow Democrats to pass voting rights and other trophy legislation. Too bad that what Biden believes about the filibuster means jack shit, because Manchin's never going to go for it, regardless of what Biden says. Okay. But you know what? I am starting to wonder if the Biden's tax plan is weighing on the markets here a little bit. You know? Even though I don't think it stands a chance of happening. Lockdowns are part of a greater UN strategy. Being on board means good PR. Bucking it means bad. You see this this headline that the British health minister was saying that the low-level COVID restrictions will remain in place. Like, they were like, as long as COVID is around, we should continue to use these restrictions. And I'm like, no. Nope. By May, ain't nothing stopping me. Here in Utah, we've been open for a long time. The measures might as well not exist anymore. And you're not going to be able to stop people come May. The RSI on the virus is picking up, so I think it's just a matter of precaution. America seems to want to wait until things get bad and then react rather than try to preemptively act and stuff. No, I don't think it's that at all. The trajectory of the virus in Europe, in particular, is a lot worse than it is in the United States. I frequently Google Florida COVID to see what the news is saying about us. Until spring break rolled around, the news was almost all good because of our vaccine rollout. Then came spring break and suddenly Florida reaches milestone of over 2 million cases. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny because it's the numbers are so, man. Looking at the COVID numbers and trying to compare between different areas is really funny to watch, because number one, it is really hard to compare different places and how they did. Okay, because you have to what is the word? You have to correct for a large number of factors. Like, you have to correct for the population as a whole, the population density, the number of old people, the health of the patients, because, people who are obese have a much harder time with COVID. So there's all of these factors that you have to control for. But even then, it appears to me that how much you get hit by COVID is based on two factors. One, how well you protect your elderly population, and two, random chance. So trying to compare different states is like hilarious, watching everybody try to bend the stats to their political view, because when I look at it, I just see noise. I see, oh yeah, there's a virus. It's pretty widespread. It results in a lot of hospitalizations. Everybody's getting it. And what else more can you say? It's just like, yeah, but and there has been some issues with the vaccine rollout everywhere, including the United States. I wonder how different it would have been if Donald Trump was still president, because one of the biggest problems that they had was they were too stringent with who could get it. So they were actually like not vaccinating people because only certain people could get vaccinated. And then they were like saving doses, waiting for people to get the second dose. And then the people didn't show up for the second dose. And so the vaccines just sat there. The whole thing, that whole thing is just silly. It's not random walk on. Well, it's random walk on whether it's higher in California versus Texas. Like if you're trying to compare the policies of California, which has basically been shut down and remains shut down since the beginning, versus Texas, that was really late to shut down, was really lax on what restrictions they had, pulled them off earlier than anybody else, and at the moment it doesn't even say you have to wear masks. And you're trying to compare those two things, and you control for density and all of these other things. I say that the difference between those two states is random, and largely has to do with when it happened to pick up in that area, you know? But there is not I have not seen any study, and there have been numerous studies on this stuff now, to show that one policy very clearly has an impact on how much the virus spreads. Like, is there a study that shows that states that implemented masks earlier or whatever the deal is did better? No, there's not. And so on one hand, you might say, well, maybe masks aren't really very effective, which I think is probably the case at this point. But the other answer that you might get is that maybe masks are effective, but other factors are way more important, and that there's just too much noise to know. But the reasons are obvious. Higher liberal states that did those things also just have higher population. I don't know if that's really. So when we're talking about Texas and Florida, well, the population density matters, and I think that California still has a higher population density. But I don't know. And then there's New York. New York is a different issue, right? Because New York had a policy that was just brain dead stupid. Right. So of course their deaths were a lot higher than anything else. So that kind of screws up a lot of data too. Let me eat here a little bit. Oh, you can't hear the text to speech. That's weird.
Winston's mom says data. And that's my cue to ask everyone watching now to please help the channel data by hitting the like button. Thanks. This helps speculators track his channel interests. Winston's mom says open a free FDIC insured savings account with Jota. Every deposit helps you save money while entering you in the weekly. Winston's mom says sweepstakes with prizes up to $10 million. USA Referral Code SPECULATORSETHNULL both get 100 tickets automatically entered into next week's drawing.
Keller says, to me, it's just a science thing. If you understand the way viruses work, you would understand the need for prevention and policies and stuff, but it seems like too many people want to fight over quote-unquote freedom. Well, that's exactly it. I don't give a fuck how much it spreads the virus and how many old people will die. I don't want fundamental constitutional freedoms to be infringed. I don't think that the government should be able to lock you down to your home on a whim. I don't think that that's constitutional. And I don't think that the risk to the public health justifies the intrusion on our liberties that they're doing. Straight up, I don't. And I think that at the beginning of this pandemic, especially some of the early data that they had did justify that we needed to do something at the very beginning. But I do not believe that the government should be allowed to maintain restrictions indefinitely, which is what they're trying to do. Yeah, and straight up as well, I'm on the opposite side of that view. Like, this the whole thing is it's the United States, right? Like, the whole point of the United States is that we value the freedom over the other things. And there is a conscious acknowledgement that there are bad sides to that. That people can do things in the United States, like get their hands on weapons, that they can't do in other parts of the world. And we accept that. And I'm really tired of people in this country trying to question the entire founding basis of this country because they're too nervous about what they read on the news, you know? Sermo says, I heard something about that if you trade very high leverage, it gets triggered by market makers. Does that say something to you? Well, there is a belief amongst retail traders that if you get into a position that the market makers will sniff out your position and go right to your stop, and that they know where your stop is and all of this and that, right? The reality is that the market makers are just pulling their orders based off of the flow that comes in here. So the reality is that the market as a whole is likely to go to your spots just because of the way that the market behaves. It's not like anything that market makers do or anything like that. And yeah, the higher that you trade, the more orders that you trade, the larger your impact is going to be on the market, and the more that is going to work against you. In my view, science and empirical evidence and all that logic and reason kind of stuff being the ultimate arbiter of good policy. Well, you're getting into an area, though, where the empirical evidence is not really able to show what the best policy is because you can't go back and experiment on it, right? You can't go back and say, what if the United States wasn't a free country? Would we be better off? Right? And you can't necessarily just compare what happened in the United States to another country that has a stricter policy because there's so many other compounding factors to account for. I 100% agree that mankind will adapt, but I would agree. Well, yeah, and like that's the thing is that the death rate of this virus for the majority of people does not justify these actions. I don't see how they justify these actions. I just don't. Oh, by the way, Winston was tweeting for us about the Yada link, and I'm pretty sure that the majority of you guys that have any interest in opening up a savings account with Yada have done so. But just if you're not familiar with what it is, Yada is a savings account where instead of giving you an interest rate, they give you lottery tickets every week based on how much you have in their savings account. So it's kind of more fun. And you can sign up for Yada with the code SpeculatorSeth, and both of us will get free tickets, which can end up being like $10 or so. In some cases, I've gotten up to $10 off of those bonus tickets before. But for those of you that do have it, I would recommend this week going out and, telling your siblings and your parents and everything to go and open up an account and deposit $25 into the account, because they're paying out double bonuses this week. So exchanges do know where the stops are, right? Do they use this information for their own benefit? No, that would be illegal. The stop source are stored on the exchange, but to my knowledge, in futures markets, that information is not available to anybody. Unless except for like maybe the engineer, system engineer. So hold up. Yeah, that takes some weight off of my shoulders. Well, if your concern is that the market is going to come after your stops and stop you, I mean, that can definitely mess with your head. So that is something that I would, I think that we should nip in the butt. But I think you guys are missing the larger implication here, right? The larger implication here is that if you just willy-nilly take a position for the heck of it, the chances are that the market is going to come and hit your stop on average. That's just the way that the market works. So in terms of how you trade, I would recommend that you trade with the assumption that everybody's out to get you. Okay. Don't tell people how your strategy works, because that will get more people placing it, increasing the execution impact of that strategy and decreasing the effectiveness of the strategy. That's one thing. But then the second thing is that you shouldn't be taking a trade unless there is really, truly a good reason to do it. Because if the reason you're taking the trade is people tend to do X off of this pattern, and if I take a trade here, then it's likely that the market will magically go up to this particular location. Well, the reality is that those kind of heuristics are not effective simply because of the way that the market works, simply because of market making and the noise in the market and so forth. So you should just assume that they know where your stops are and they're going to go for it, and only put a trade on when you know that person with the ability to see your stop wouldn't go after it because they would know that you're on the right side of the trade and that they don't want to fight it. You get what I mean? You get what I mean? To have a real actual edge, be an informed trader when you take those trades, and then be on the right side of that trade, and that's not a problem, right? And I think that that's the true takeaway. And when I've gone through and I've read everything that I've read about market microstructure says that unless you have a real informational edge, that it doesn't make sense for you to trade. And I do not believe that most technical analysis signals qualify as a real edge that justifies a trade. Get what I'm saying? Honestly, I think it's really scary and creepy that people would think ask it in regards to a ton of people dying. Well, yeah, but a ton of people die every day, Keller. you realize like what kind of world you go down if every little thing that increases the chances of a certain group of people dying becomes an issue. Like that's you can't live like that. You can't live like that, right? Then it's like, okay, we should get rid of cars. We should do all these other things. Like this actually kind of ties into the conversation that we left off with yesterday with Ace, right? In this world, you have to take risks. There's not benefit without risk. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that we do, benefits that we get, like faster transportation through cars. And every time that you drive a car, there's a risk. Driving a car will get you to your destination faster, but you're more likely to die than if you were walking. You see? What level of risk is acceptable? Right? And so this is the same thing with a virus is if you go out with and interact with other people anytime, and this was true before COVID, and I guess the chances are just higher now, but anytime that you went out into public and interacted with people, there was a chance that you could get sick from it. And there was a minute chance that the sickness could kill you. Right? And now that risk has just risen. Allowing Corona to just run rampant out of laziness? No, that's not true at all. Because there are real detrimental impacts from all of these policies, right? It depresses the economy. It keeps people in their house. It makes mental illness worse. It increases suicides. Like my sister freaking died because of this shit, right? She would still be here if there wasn't lockdowns, right? There are downsides to it. So you can't say that coronavirus restrictions are a win-win situation. That's not the case. You are reducing your risk of death in exchange for negative impacts elsewhere. Sorry to hear that. Well, let's not talk about it. We talked about it plenty last May when it happened. Was it May? I don't remember when it was. Anyways. Those of you that were around a year ago will remember when we didn't trade for a month because of that. Market does appear to be turning down. They're getting close to where technical traders are going to look for resistance. There was some icebergs, small 400 lot icebergs in spots. I can see that the treasuries are pushing down this morning for some reason. There may be downsides, but it just seems that the totality of the push and pull points in an extremely clear direction to prioritize the corona. Well, at one point. So if you're going to take that line, then the question is, at which point is it justified, right? Because the whole issue that I'm having here is that it was like, okay, in the beginning, restrictions were justified because we needed to be able to catch up. But in my opinion, the restrictions should not have been as strict as they were last summer. I think that they should have been working to build more herd immunity over the summer. And they should have said, if you are a healthy individual and you aren't going to be around individuals that are not healthy, you should go and get it and then quarantine yourself for 2 weeks to build up herd immunity. They should have done that in the summer. Okay, now we've been through 3 waves, and people are telling us that we should leave the restrictions in place indefinitely. No. It's not justified. It is not. The risk is minimal. And the decrease of the risk is not equal to the decrease in quality of life that we all get from leaving those restrictions in place. It has absolutely nothing to do with keeping people healthy or anything like that. And it is entirely a big government power grab. People that want the government to have power and want the government to be able to keep you in your house whenever they want. Because I really just do not see how the current pace of the virus and the current situation justifies that. Who is saying indefinitely? The British health minister is basically saying indefinitely. What is creepy and scary is people who'd be willing to spend the rest of their lives locked in their homes under government restrictions to prevent themselves from getting an illness they stand less of a chance dying from than they do of winning the lottery. It's not the percentage isn't that extreme, is it? Bum, 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 bum. Well, it's still kind of trending down, but it's pretty slow still. Most traders think inflation is coming in a big way, but what are the best places to trade and invest your money if you believe that is the case? Asks Anthony Goodelley. While the ECB report did not elaborate on racial divides in Europe, it concluded that expansionary policies in recent years had particularly pronounced effects in reducing inequality and increasing employment for lower income households. Bullshit. Well, I wonder how they made that conclusion. Florida is a funny place. The boomers are the ones wanting to burn their masks, and the kids are the ones terrified they'll die. You ever think that's really the case? Actually, it probably is. I bet you that Gen Z is totally in on the social media narrative of it, and are probably prone to want to stay inside anyways. I have to say, there's been this whole thing about how birth rates have declined significantly off of coronavirus, and a lot of people think that they will never come back. And I'm sitting here like, well, maybe Asher's getting a good deal here. being born at the beginning
Wow.
of the pandemic. It's going to be interesting. It's going to have an impact on the rest of his life. Okay, so that's interesting. A large order just showed up at 29.5 in the 10-year treasury. 29.5 offer. I like the Pokemon. There's nothing to show you. You can see the whole thing right there in the screen. But if it's everyone has to be in lockdown forever, let's not say forever. Let's say past May. I don't believe that there is any justification for the lockdowns to remain in place past May. Birth rates were declining well before Corona. Well, in a lot of industrialized nations that was true, but it's like now it's like all of Europe is like Japan. Okay, like it's really bad. I don't see how anyone can say lockdowns were effective given who locked down, how fiercely they locked down, and where we are today with COVID. Well, so one thing that I do think we can conclusively say is that lockdowns delayed the virus, for sure. I don't think there's any question about that. We locked down in like February, and then it didn't really pick up anywhere because we were completely locked down. So in the case where it's like you want to buy yourself time, it's lockdown effective, it seems like it, but only for a certain period of time. It delays it. It doesn't prevent it, you know? We all trade sucks. You know how the market goes up after you sell. We have to see where we're at with the virus around that time. I'm just saying, based on current trajectory and like estimated herd immunity and vaccines and everything else like that, I don't think that it's a very, very low probability that we need to do anything at that point. Oh man. Uzi, I remember explaining to people what happens when you flatten a curve. I said the same thing, just using a market profile as an example, right? Lockdowns make the pandemic last longer. That's a mathematical reality. Right? Oh man, you know what, Uzi? Because I know you and I see this the same way and commiserate on it all the time, right? But if there is anything that has happened during the pandemic that irritates me, I wouldn't even say it irritates me. I think it makes me downright mad. Is that they sold the pandemic restrictions to everybody based on a strategy of flattening the curve. And then after they got flattening the curve, they twisted it and tried to turn it into crush the curve. That makes me so mad. They lied about it. Well, maybe not lied, but some people tried to extend it. Because if they had come out and said at the very beginning, we need to crush the curve, the public wouldn't have gone along with it. It would have been different. It would have been different at least, right? It makes me so mad. Because crushing the curve doesn't make sense. You can't crush the curve. Crushing the curve and keeping everything shut down until a vaccine becomes available is not sustainable. Double mutant COVID variant found in India. Yeah, and this is the thing that's going to come out, is it's going to be like there's always going to be some new variant of the coronavirus to keep you locked down. We were never locked down here in Florida and never came anywhere near to overwhelming our hospitals. Yeah. Well, in Utah, there was a period where it was looking bad. Although in Utah, I think it turns out that, hey, our hospital capacity just isn't all that great, is it? Then there's this other side, which is like, never mind. I thought Florida had it real bad for a while, at least. I mean, everywhere had it real bad at one point, but I don't think that anybody ever had the hospitals flooded, right? That's where it gets really questionable, right? Is there a single place in the world where if they completely removed restrictions, that they would be at risk of exceeding hospital capacity? I don't think that there is. They have moved the goalpost from flattening the curve to crushing the curve. There's no question about it. Donald Trump was the only one that really wanted to flatten the curve, and he thought that he had done what was necessary for it, and then he was just going to let things open back up and let the hospitals get close to capacity. And the Democrats and every other major world government said, no, we're going to crush the curve. That's what happened. Doesn't really take away from the overall importance of prevention techniques. Well, but then we get into this other thing. So here's some questions. Okay, when we were locked down in March, when it was March, it was like I intentionally avoided going anywhere. I got as much, I got myself food for 4 weeks or whatever, and we did not leave the house during that lockdown. I did not interact with anybody outside of my household. I did not go and see my parents down the street, right? For a month or whatever. It was actually much longer than that, now that I think about it. Because there was a whole period when my infant son, probably the best points of having a baby, like the period where they're asleep most of the time and they just let you hold them. Yeah. And my parents couldn't come over. And that was like real restrictions. Okay. Real restrictions. Does that work? Seems to me that a full-on lockdown at the very least delayed the virus. Okay. That's not sustainable. You can't do that forever. We all know that. That decimated the economy. Okay. So then you have all of these other levels of restrictions, like 6 feet of social distancing. Like you can go to school, but all of the kids have to sit 6 feet apart, or now it's 3 feet, right? And you have to wear masks. And that's where I start to say, okay, but are those things actually effective? Because I have yet to see the data that conclusively proves that. So you kind of get into this point where it's like, okay, the thing that we know actually works, we're not doing anymore. And now we have a bunch of things in place that we're not really sure work. The very fact that they changed it from 6 feet to 3 feet establishes that the 6 feet thing is crap. I think that the 6 feet thing made sense, and I really don't understand why they changed it to 3 feet. Yeah, it kind of should make you a little suspicious, but I'm not going to say that it outright proves something mad. Those half-assed let's be close but not too close policies are sort of bad bureaucratic tendency for compromise, maybe. But that's the thing, is that how much of the restrictions that are in place were actually scientifically justified versus politicians wanting to do things. Places of the country where kids still aren't going to school because the teachers and the politicians don't want to open the schools up, even though the CDC and all of the scientists are saying to open the schools back up. Yeah. That compromises exactly why I think scientists. No, it's not, because the problem is that the problem is that the science never ends up being the policy. Is not practical. Like this technocrat idea. Sorry, I'm like. This technocrat idea that we can put the people that know what's going on in charge of certain policies, and then we'll always do the thing that is the scientifically most optimal thing, is horseshit. It never works that way for a multitude of reasons. One, because even if you have somebody in there that really does know what's going on, the politics of a situation far too often outweigh what is actually the best for everybody. Okay, if we did what was actually the best for everybody, I tell you what, this world would be a lot different, because there are a lot of things that would be better for everybody, and people just aren't going to go along with it. Okay, you know what would be better for everybody? To just let all of the old people die. I know that that's like an awful thing to say, and I'm not saying that I believe that that's what should happen, but I guarantee you that if you go down and you crunch the numbers and you sit down and you say, based on the number of lives saved versus what you lose in suicides and all of these other things, that and the improvements in quality of life as those older people die, because those assets can be passed down to their family and all of those other things, it would be better to let people over a certain age just die from the coronavirus. It would be. But we don't do that because we want to be compassionate, right? So, of course, we don't do what would be like the most scientifically optimal thing. You never do. And they never will. And then you run into all of these issues of, how do you get somebody in there that actually really knows what's going on? Fauci being the perfect example. Fauci is like an administrative guy, and he claims to know everything about the science, but then he keeps saying all of this bullshit that is just has no basis in science at all. Like, if you've gotten the vaccine and then you still need to wear the mask, it's like, then why get the vaccine if the vaccine isn't effective enough? And there's all sorts of people in, like the ground level, like developing the vaccines and stuff like that, starting to criticize him now, right? You're never going to get that. You're never going to get that. People who think science is the ultimate arbiter ignore how much of the Holocaust was attributed to science. Science is important, sure, but science can be wrong as well. Well, yeah, that's... I would think that a person that believes in that particular the way of doing things, though, would just argue that that wasn't scientific and that we don't do that. But, of course, like, it seems to me like we do in cases. I've just seen far too many instances in my life where something that was believed and pushed as scientific policy. I'll give you the best example, man. Oh my gosh, this is gonna make you guys laugh. The best example of policy based on science that was bullshit was the food pyramid, right? The food pyramid was touted as that it was scientific. But in reality, it was really just like the food industry pushing what they wanted people to do. And it wasn't, and that was like, they taught that in school and everything, man. But it wasn't. It's our understanding of what your diet should be now is radically different from what we were taught on the food pyramid. The great irony of people who just blindly consume science is the fact that in order to do so, one must first fundamentally assume that science is static and universal. Yeah, well, that is an interesting thing. I think that people, this goes back to people's desire for religion, right? Because, what religion do you know out there that is the rules and what the religion knows to be true and defines as truth could change every day? It doesn't exist, right? Part of the whole point of a religion is to have a set of truths to point to that will universally always be true. And some religions, like Mormonism, which, I'm a Mormon, is a huge outlier in that respect, in that they will say that like new revelation can come out. And it is a huge aberration in the religious world. And even then, there's kind of limits to how radically, the Mormon church changes things, right? The religion, that's not what people want in religion. Like that part of humans that religion fills and that tends to result in better health outcomes for religious people, I believe is in part based on consistency and cohesiveness of the group, right? So to come in and have your religion be science is kind of ends up being silly, because in science your understanding of something can change every day, and so people don't treat it like that. People treat it like they read something and then forever after that's the truth, and when new information comes up that rejects that information that they had previously, they just ignore it, and that happens a lot. Well, you said that you don't care about the truth when it comes to your religion. Let's qualify that here. Does the truth matter? Yes, but it's not the only consideration, man. Because we're talking about situations where the truth is not known or is not proven, right? So let's go back to that, shall we? Your claim is that in the situation where it can't be proven and it can't be disproven, that your decision-making process should optimize for being wrong the least. That is my reading of your approach. And I would ask, what would happen to your trading if your entire trading strategy was being wrong the least? Does reducing how often you are wrong matter? Yes, very much so. But in order to take advantage of opportunities, in order to make money, you have to take on risk and you have to be wrong sometimes. So I am okay with being wrong sometimes, even on a matter such as religion or whatever. So like from my perspective, it's like, okay, I can live my whole life out as Mormon, having faith in those teachings, and then I die and I'm wrong and there is no God, then guess what? Didn't matter. You know what? At that point, I'm okay with being wrong in my death, because it doesn't change anything. You get what I mean? So why am I optimizing based on whether or not I would be wrong? When I can go and I can be wrong about something and benefit in the long run anyways. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter. You wasted all that time. You wasted all that time what? You wasted all that time going to church, like 2 hours at church on Sunday, a day that nobody does anything anyways, is such a huge... Come on. Let me tell you what, man. Because nobody, man, I am so ADHD. I cannot sit at church and not fall asleep, man. I cannot do it. It is like physically impossible. If you had a cousin who spent hours of their day thinking and talking about pixies, wouldn't you think it doesn't matter? No, I don't think it would be a huge deal. No. I mean, maybe if they were spending 8 hours a day only on pixies, I don't know. Come on. Here's an idea. There's something that's probably even more controversial. You need to have unpredictable times of the day, man. Some people are gotten into this mode in the society where it's like you need to be 100% productive every second of the day. And then, no. You should have times of the day where you don't do anything. And you should do that every day. And if that's going to be like 2 hours in the evening where you study about pixies because you believe that they exist, then have at it. I don't think that really has a huge negative impact on your life. And more to the point, is spending 2 hours a week going to school a huge negative impact on your life? No, in fact, there's really big benefits that have been shown in studies from going to church every week. And if you end up in a leadership position where you spend a considerable amount of your time at church helping and interacting with people, is that a bad thing? No, it's not. No, it's not. Okay, so the market overall seems to be heading up, but it's a little bit constrained. And I'm wondering, and there was a good amount of delta long on it, but it was only by like a few hundred contracts. So we should probably, like when I'm looking at that cumulative delta right there, it looks like a huge spike up, but when you read the actual numbers, it's not. So we should keep that in mind. So you're happy to follow a religion just in case there's a God, but you don't want to wear a mask because you don't see the evidence. I don't want to wear a mask beyond May because the evidence that I have seen suggests that it won't be needed anymore. And the evidence that I have seen suggests that it's not very effective. Right? That's where we can go in and we can say there's kind of different levels of right and wrong in reality, right? Because we might not be able to conclusively prove a conclusion, but we may have evidence to suggest that the probability that the conclusion is X or Y is stronger, right? And I'm saying that based on the information that I have, the probability that masks aren't effective is higher. Genuine question, you did your analysis, balance the risk and landed on Mormonism. Well, so yeah, that's I get what you're hinting at, but we kind of admitted that yesterday, right? When we went through the decision-making process on these things, what the market thinks matters, right? If the market thinks that we're going to move up today, that matters, because if we're going to move up and if the market thinks that we're going to move up, that makes it really hard to fade it. But if I know for sure that the market is wrong about that because I have a piece of information about the economy that the larger market hasn't factored in, I will very confidently go in and fade that, right? So here in this case, that's what the religion is in my area. And in order for me to go against what the dominant religion in the area would be, I would have to have a good reason to do it, right? So the fact that I was born here and was born into it is probably the primary factor why I ended up where I am, and I'm okay with that. My state has no mask mandate. I went to 7-Eleven. I had to wear a mask to go in. I wore a mask. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll wear it, but I'm not gonna promote policies where mask mandates. Okay, so I'm still just kind of waiting here. We do have some like PMIs and stuff. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. I did not notice that. Hold on. There was a huge divergence in the NASDAQ versus the S&P 500 here. What I'm saying, though, is policies can go away. Companies getting mandated forever. Anyway, man, I hope not. I think that there's going to be a point, like a year from now, where companies are going to find that people just avoid their stores if they have a mask mandate. I can only hope. Uzi's decent set is not. I mean, I would like this is the thing that's funny, guys, is we sold masks. Like my wife made like $3,000 off of selling masks to people, and we went through all of the CDC guidelines and made sure that they all matched that and have wires in them so that the air doesn't come out through the mask, and it has multiple layers and all of this stuff. Like we did the masks. We went through the guidance because that's what the science suggested at the time. And the CDC and the disease experts still believe that masks are the way to go. And I think that the science behind why they work and that they should reduce the rate of infection and everything all makes sense. But the problem is that if you actually go through the data and you sit down and you say, okay, when they implemented a mask mandate here, did it help? And this place had a mask mandate and this place didn't. Did it help? And we don't see that in the data. And so that's why I say that the evidence suggests the probability is that masks are not very effective. It's not proven, but I'd say that the probability is higher that masks are not very effective. Not only going to say that they're ineffective, that they don't do nothing, but just that they're not very effective. Okay, so they're trading some big prints in the 39.17 area. Yeah, good point in attitude, Uzi.
Block buy.
Oh, what's this? You see that at 27 in the 10-year? Somebody bought that. Well, I would really like to buy the E-mini. And I suppose that 39.17 is an okay spot. But when I really look at it, I don't really have a really strong reason to get in here. I don't think I do. So I think I need to sit out. What would you say is true? A surgeon wouldn't wear one during an operation? Well, the risk of infection during an operation is a lot higher. I mean, so we have to ask, if masks are not very effective, then why is that? I think the case is that the actual like transmissiveness of it is not that crazy high, you know? It's not like if you've been anywhere within 6 feet of somebody and they breathed, you're gonna get it. It's not like that, you know? Stare into the eye of the order book. I wouldn't read the order book as unless nothing that you see is predictive, man. Very, very few things that you see are truly predictive. Elon Musk single-handedly pumped Bitcoin. If you're talking about today, because they moved from 5,400 to 5,700, that's just a wash, man. I think it's funny that the Bitcoiners are getting so excited over that today, because it doesn't seem to have had really any real noticeable effect. Listen, if it mattered, they'd be over 60K already, right? But maybe you get that, and along with the Butters just really, really wanting to go there, maybe they will eventually be able to hold 60K, right? Yeah, I thank you for reminding me that, Uzi. I didn't completely understand what you meant. Are you talking about doing something like the what do they call this thing where they've found that like ones are much more common in numbers than nines, and you want to see if the last digit, if there's an aberration in the distribution of those? Do you honestly believe the Asian countries wouldn't have had such lower death rates without widespread mask use? No, I don't think it is because of the widespread mask use at all. Because many places in the United States had widespread mask use before the virus came through and still caught the virus. I believe that the Asian countries that you're referring to in particular, like Singapore, probably the best example, and South Korea being another good example, was that they did not catch the virus, didn't expand as much in those countries because they had better contact tracing. Contact tracing appears to be something that, if you have it in place early on, does appear to be extremely effective. And both South Korea and Singapore had a lot of supplies on hand to do the testing and the resources to do the contact tracing, whereas here in the United States, when they tried doing it, it was basically like, why even bother? Because they were so terrible at it. Well, you're not talking about the range profile. You're talking about the one where we were trying to determine what the difference between two prices were, right? And you just want me to do a number distribution histogram of the last digit. That's what you meant? I guess I can see why I thought it was confusing, because it doesn't make sense what we would get from that, but we can try it. maybe we will get something. Theoretically, we shouldn't, but okay. They're holding pretty good there, but a little slip to new highs, but nothing too much yet. 20 trading. Here comes some news. So the market PMIs. Services PMI 60 versus 59 spot 8. Manufacturing PMI flash 59 versus 59 spot 3. So the market reacting positively to that news, but the numbers look like they're just kind of okay. We still have stuff at the top of the hour, right? Oh, Fed Chair Powell testimony. Okay. Oh, geez, that whole spot. Okay. That's interesting. So you're getting like a market that's overall moving up and then like big sweeps down. Make the sound and watch your day trader come running, right? The sound is really great, isn't it? Because it immediately tells you something happened. And I, in terms of like an alert that there was a movement in the market, I've not found anything better. Well, I'm a little unsure about this one, so I'm going to let it do its thing for a little bit. Theoretically, it should. You can see that because of that happened, they're a little stuck, so. Oh, yeah. GameStop down 18%, and it's sitting at 148 right now. Owie. And I can see that a lot of the techs today are having trouble. Tesla's down 0.5%. ARK is down 1%. MSTR is up 1.81 though. Goldman up 1%. Sumo down 2. Man, Sumo's just getting slaughtered, man. Market producers were increasingly unable to keep pace with demand, however, due mainly to supply chain disruptions and delays. Higher prices have ensued, with rates of both input cost and selling price inflation running far above anything previously seen in the survey's history. I see. So what's happening is they're sorting out the survey because some of the initial information doesn't, they're reading into the report and they're trying to digest what's going on, and it's complicated because there's some signs of inflation in there. Oh, when you say that range profile thing you made, you just want the distribution. I've already done that, actually. Kind of, although I did it like on the close, I think. I didn't do it on the last digit. I just did it on the subtick. Well, maybe I should have tried reversing it, but getting out off of that was what was a good pick. I have to go find it. I have one that's already really close for you, Uzi. Yep, it's the open histogram part, I think. Yep, no, this handles that. Yeah. It's completely based on that, in fact. Yep. Yep. So that's showing you, when you take out the handle part, what is the most common. But that's for the open. You want to know what the high and low prices are? So we can do that. Let's do that. Keep an eye on it here. Firms commonly reported slower output growth due to a lack of raw materials to fulfill new orders. The rate of production growth was the slowest since last October. The rate of price inflation was the sharpest since data collection began in late 2009. Firms were able to partially pass higher costs through to clients, however, as selling prices rose at the fastest pace on record. Yeah. Do you want the last digit? Yeah, I get you. So let's put it into Seth stats. New indicator. What should we call it? It sounds like they got that boat. Something with that boat. Let me hear. Oh, it's still stuck. So I don't know what happens here. So if we had read into the report and we'd known that read was going to be bad, and I don't think that I would have known that, we could have taken it short there. But since we weren't in the know on that one. I'm a little unsure about where it goes from here. Firms sought to partially pass greater input prices through to clients with the rate of charge inflation the sharpest on record. I'd figure it'd be easy enough for you to do, yeah. Always. Okay, so let's do... Is there an what should we call it? What should we call it? Yeah, Roaring Kitty issued his first Reddit missive in more than 2 weeks, a screenshot of what appeared to be as a trading account that revealing that while he had lost almost $2 million on GameStop on Tuesday alone, the account is up almost $24 million on the year. You went over to Ross Cameron's place. What? Call it selection. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say, we should do it as a switch. There's probably more elegant ways of doing this with reflection, but I don't particularly care at the moment. Oh, double val equals 0. Oh. I have to do this. That's why it's complaining. That's why. Oh, and this right here is not capitalized. Still whining. Oh, do I have to say case? Yeah, okay. There we go. Okay. Then let's see here. If truncate, it just gets the decimal part, right? Yep. Oh, I see. And then from there, we say val equals val mod 10 will give us the last digit. Okay, well, they spent a little bit of time down there and they're bouncing. And it doesn't like that. Do I need the enum just to be up here? Is that what it's complaining about? No, that made it worse. What am I doing wrong here? Don't put too much brain power into it. I'll take a jalopy if it rolls. No, you know what? I'm not sure I want to do anything in the E-mini at the moment. I kind of suspect that they're going to go up anyways, but for some reason I don't feel confident. I'm doing something wrong here. Because it surely thinks I'm like missing. I'm missing a. Okay, so that right there, that might be it. Yeah. I think that's it. I just had the parentheses mismatched. Oh, and then I changed this so it needs to be. Type. They're buying it. Darn. That fell apart on me at exactly the wrong time. No, it wasn't a real train. Okay, I think it should work now. Except for that it's not showing up. You would think that it could be, but it was really because I was kind of taking a little bit of a gamble there. I shouldn't have tried averaging it, but happens. Sometimes it happens. Oh, you know what it is? It's the it's not actually in the namespace, is it? Yeah. Okay. Ta-da! It works. So then we can come in and we can say the high. You don't see anything unusual about it. Well, that's not working so well. It's what you would expect, that the lower numbers are more common. Maybe that 6 and 7 slightly more than they should be. Okay, now I'm concerned that when I try and put it into a package for you, that it won't translate. Also, let's fix the namespaces. I'll make them all clean, of course. Of course. Otherwise, you get so many indicators you can't even find them. Okay. Okay, hopefully this will install correctly. Because there's a base class. There you go. Oh, can you hear that? No, you're just hearing the background noise. I have no idea. I just got my 2 points and keep the Lambo repo processor awake. Well, the issue with options trading is I think it requires a lot more analysis than people expect. You've got to model a bunch of stuff to really be effective with that. I'm gonna puke. Flat. Well, the volume is certainly getting a lot more dire in it. Good move. Wow. Oh my. Look at how aggressively they're pushing through those bids. Further. Ooh, there's something going on here, man. That was somebody. I don't think that was just a bunch of people freaking out and puking. That was some large players really freaking out, like just trying to sell as much as they could, and they didn't care that the absorption was happening there or anything. I missed the short watch it turn for 20, right? I think it could. I mean, there's a possibility that it reverses there, but that was something else. Okay, there's a little bit of a sweep. It didn't cause slippage, but so this is kind of interesting. We're getting a profile here So remember, we've pointed out areas where profiles will form because there's not a lot of latent liquidity, but that is not the case in this instance. In this instance, a profile is building because there is a lot of latent liquidity, and the sellers were very much willing to try and push through it, and are still doing so, in fact. NIO is down 6%. Ouch. Well, ARC is down 2.9. So the offers kind of let it come back up, but the selling is still going. Like the delta's definitely still there. What does it look like on this one? Okay, so a little bit of a pullback, but in cumulative delta, but not much. So that is in line with what I think I'm seeing. It moved up because the orders kind of let it, not that the cumulative delta's changed. Thanks, broski. Uzi. Okay. So I'm just kind of detecting some slight liquidity issues in the E-mini here now. There's definitely not as much interest in trading it up here in the 11 to 13 range as there was in the 07 to 9 range. Even though more volume is traded overall in that former. Once everybody buys, nobody gonna support those ARC stocks. It's been surprisingly resilient. Like, they had that bloodbath a week or two ago. But the ARC diehards are still all in. Every week seems toppy. Well, I tell you what, just look at the way that the market behaves when we sell. Now, granted, the market always sells harder than it buys, but when the E-mini sells lately, they are acting like there's a full-on crisis on the horizon, don't you think? I mean, I've seen a full-on crisis. I know what that order flow looks like, and it's just like all of the time they're starting to do stuff that's like they think something crazy is happening. It's like we won't get too far on the upside. Well, at the moment, it looks like the liquidity is driving the price. That probably has more to do with the underlying index, of course, but you can kind of see where it's going. It's the liquidity is driving the price, because so there is some liquidity at 37.09. So I'm gonna maybe put one there. No. It's still going to do it. They took an offer and then it bid back up on 42 contracts and moved away from it again. And they're buying it up. Some of that buying could be covering as much as anything. We're going to get the oil inventories here in a bit. That could influence things. I guess I should make note that even though we had that tumble in the E-mini, the overall chart for the day doesn't look too bad, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of correlation in other assets. Oh, wow, Uzi, thank you so much. $20. Wow. That's great. Yeah. I love that histogram thing, man. I can't believe that more people don't use it. The thing that continues to surprise me is that all of the things that I find useful, the rest of the trading world just completely ignores. Okay, so there was a build on the forecast coming through on Twitter here. GameStop down 20% isn't great. It's really bad, isn't it? Ooh, look at that. Okay, so did you see on that move how some volume came through And as soon as that volume came through, a couple of orders started pulling, but now they're pushing back. So the market saw that sell volume and thought, okay, that might be informed trading. Could be because of oil here. It looks like oil is going to drop because it was a build, right? It's not too much so far in oil, though. Okay. But then when it didn't do anything too crazy, then they said, oh, okay, maybe it wasn't informed trading, and they reversed it. I made a pretty large play buying yesterday's RTH low based on that spreadsheet I sent you. Oh, really? So one thing that I didn't put into it, but that we could add is like only show the histogram over the last X bars, right? Because that one, it will show you the whole chart, which is probably why it looks pretty Gaussian. But that chart that you showed me was interesting. And I'm wondering how they got that. Actually, let me really look in on it. Like, why the last digit being 4 and 3 were more common, and the lows, 7s and 6s were more common, is really odd to me. And it must have been something to do with, like, that one was done manually by me on RTH bars, one on daily bars. Oh, interesting. Well, then maybe there's something to it. Okay, so that selling came in, they've brought it back up to the before the big dip price. Right? So that would be, well, overall for the session, it doesn't quite fit. Overall for the session, we'd have to like really come back up for the buy side market makers to be making money, unfortunately for them. Did Gabby ever get a trade? Oh, she did. Good for her. Funny story, actually. I originally had my wife hash count on the back of a piece of mail while I read her off digits from TradingView. Really? That's interesting. Yeah, automating it should do good for you. I mean, here's the thing. If the occurrence of a particular digit is not 1 being the highest and 9 being the lowest, that is definitely unusual. That can't be random. Well, I'm not going to say it can't be random, but I would say it's unlikely to be random. So I am wondering, the treasuries have been down today. Not excessively so, but they have been on the downside so far this session. Kind of retracing the overnight move. So I'm wondering if that could be having some impacts. Overall, though, looks like okay. Well, I didn't get nearly as much out of that short as I should have, huh? Hmm. Hmm. Well, I'm gonna have to go and do my own a little analysis of it and see if I can. So the one of the things we got to be careful about is just because we find an aberration in a particular piece of market data doesn't necessarily mean that we can find a profitable trading strategy that takes advantage of it. So I need to look. You said a couple of things there, but we should be hush about it from here on out, right? We'll just say when we went on 1 minute bars, it was exactly what should be expected, which is to say that it follows this law where the lower numbers are more common. Hmm. Oh boy, Biden's gonna unveil his economic plan next Wednesday. Curious, it seems that the E-mini traded a bit more volume at 39.18 than the micros did. Kind of looks like they want to break out, but they're not quite doing it yet. They did touch the ATR stop, but they didn't close above it. Benford's law, that's right. When we ran it on a 1-minute chart, what we got was what we should expect from Benford's law. Well, they look kind of stuck around 17, don't they? So another case where the liquidity is very much there. They're putting pretty big orders on the inside there. You think that the Z's might flip back up? Well, that could be good for equities, yeah? Kind of question that remains, why was it like that in the first place, right? Some 500s there in the E-mini. Looks like the bid gave up. Probably moved. So, despite seeing a build and initially moving down, where you're now seeing oil moving higher, touching $60 a barrel. Okay. We'll read Wynn's little messages here. She has some. She's posting good stuff. Hold on. It might take it a while for it to process it. I have to say, by the way, Wynn, I've noticed, especially over the last month or two, that you've become a lot better at understanding which headlines are relevant and which ones aren't. And you're always posting the ones that are like so relevant that I like almost don't even bother saying anything about them. You know what I mean? Is everyone jumping in again? Well, they haven't quite. Well, they've recovered the cumulative delta from the sell. So this is what it's doing right now is about what I would expect, which is that we had a large meta order selling, and then there was a little bit of a meta order buying, and because of the sign change, we end up going higher. So that doesn't necessarily mean to me that buyers are like really seriously in control, but them accelerating up here and heading towards the highs kind of suggests that. And we could have some, if we do get some more longs, say on a break of the high or something like that, then I think overall we could be good for at least a decent move up. That said, you are going to get up into an area where there's going to be a little bit of difficulty. In fact, that right there was probably some of it. Getting above 39.22 and a quarter in particular was kind of the area that they swept from. Thank you. You're welcome. It's not reading them. Maybe I didn't click the button. Good enough. I clicked the button again. Powell says the rise in bond yields reflects a sense of the improved economic outlook.
Winston Slum says shares of banks have been volatile the last couple of weeks as investors try to gauge the impact of higher interest rates on the U.S. economy. Higher interest rates can slow economic.
How do you get the shaded regions on your chart again? Oh yeah, go to Discord. Well, there is a video on my channel about trading multiple time frames. You can't miss it when you're going throughout the videos because it's got the all the things guys on it, you know. And I link to it. Or you can just go to our Discord, which is linked in the video description of every video, and go to the downloads channel, and it's in the downloads channel. I think there's also a version of it on Futures.io, but it's older. So let's see how they react into this. Well, ARK is still down pretty bad. So it's when I'm looking at my board here, of course, I don't have a very many cyclicals on my watch list yet. I think we need to work on that. Yeah, FCX is up. Goldman Sachs is up. Those are two on that. SNBR, I can't remember what that is, but I think that's like a growth name anyways. So it looks like the growth names are getting hammered today and the value names are outperforming. And that ultimately the value names are dragging us higher, despite the bearishness on the growth names. So they equaled the high. They're rubbing up right against it, but it's not going. And somebody just sold a bid at 39.23 and a quarter, and liquidity was there to just absorb all of it, and we got a 1500 iceberg there. Yes, that's the one, Win. That's the one where I talk about the indicator, and I think I explain how to use it in there. So. Because you want to like create two data series and then set one data series to have the bar type that we have, and then click and drag them onto each other so that they display in the same pane. Still not quite there. This is probably going to be one where they do tick a new high, and it will just be like 1 or 2 ticks new high and no big deal. And in order to get like a further run, or like a stop run, they're going to have to tick a little bit more into it. Okay, well, that wasn't bad. That was better than I was expecting, actually. But I bet you here that there's a bit more of a stop run to be had yet. I don't know if they're really if you're really seeing the squeeze yet, though. Could be. I'm surprised that Jasper in Discord's pointing out that the rise of oil price might be helping the S&P 500 versus the NASDAQ a lot. Oh, there's Kyle. How are you? Oh, I thought you were already here earlier. No, maybe not. Well, that was a pretty good little push through there. Once I was saying, like, I might take them a little bit, like they'll probably nibble at it and it might take a while. Like, that's often how those work. But that one, I'd say it went through. It was just kind of okay. And now you're getting a kind of a little bit of continuation. I haven't seen like panic short covering yet, but there could be a lot of contracts, because overall our cumulative delta for the regular trading session is still negative. Man, now that Uzi has gotten me onto the what is it? What do we call it again? Someone such and such's law. I'm thinking about all Bedford's Law. I'm thinking about all. Oh yeah, he typed it earlier faster than I remembered it. I'm wondering if there's the number of ones that we can try. Like point of control. Did you record the TikTok video on our site? I did not. Well, the thing is that we were able to find a strategy that was profitable. It does appear to be more profitable as of late, but almost everything seems to be more profitable as of late. It wasn't enough that I was comfortable making a video that people might misinterpret as just trade against the RSI. You know what I mean? Like if I could get the profit factor more to like 1.1, 1.2, then maybe it would be more like make a video about it. But I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I personally am really interested in more entertainment content. Because essentially what I'm starting to find is the more stuff I learn, the more I want to keep it to myself, you know? And the most of the stuff that I really wanted to teach people, that I thought were important to teach people, that retail traders don't seem to know, and, you know, maybe people wouldn't do it if they knew. You know, like, I've said that stuff so many different ways. You know what I mean? So I really want to try and start moving content more into the entertainment space. Now, I don't think, though, I'm the big revelation that I made late last week was that I don't have to do it with our main YouTube channel, right? So like TikTok is a really great case of a platform where you know what, I want it right here. Okay. TikTok is a really great example of a place where a more entertaining content would probably work better. And so, and it has, the videos that I've had that did really, really well were more entertainment than they were informational. And kind of what's happened is I'll have a really good entertainment video, and then I'll come out afterwards, you know, I'll use that boost to put an informational video out, right? So, yeah. Well, catching that long, it worked out really well. I have to say, I'm really unhappy with that first trade or two. So I had one where I was a buy and I correctly saw that was failing and got out. Good. Then I had two other ones where I ended up with multiple contracts on it and I took losses. So I had the two that were bad, and then I had another one that was kind of okay, and I took some profits on, and then that one I had to puke. But then I was able to make it up on these other two. So anytime that I'm adding contracts, I kind of sit down and wonder, okay, but if I went back to one, would I have been able to make that up? Right. And I also have to consider that there might be things about the way that I'm managing multiple contracts that at some points might really screw me over. So I'm going to mark today down as concerned about it, but it's okay. It's been better than some other days where we've done that, right? And then for the robots, it looks like I continue to get J2 does better than J. Today, they both lost money, but J2 did better than J overall. It's close, but the data that I have so far really suggests that J2 is more effective. So it may be time. Well, let's let them go until the end of this week. But if this continues, then next week, I think that we can go to only using J2 and trying different level 2 strategies just on J2. I'm pretty sure when I look at the level 2, there is layers of complexity on it that I don't get. I think that there's a thing where it's like when X, Y, and Z conditions are met, you want to go along with which side of the book is stronger. And when these other conditions are met, you want to go against it. And so it's not just like a straight filter like the way that I'm using it. But we can go in and we can say, okay, does my max, min, or just the current divergence work better? And we can test that. So, yeah. Now that one, the differences between the three of those might be minute. And so that will probably take us a lot longer to test, right? RJ Will says, define entertaining, what kind? Well, so the video that I had that went really well was when somebody showed me how to use Windows Alt to move lines of code around more quickly without having to copy and paste. And I like cried because I was so happy about it, and people really liked that one. That was the one that got like hundreds of thousands of views. I think it topped out at 250,000 views or likes, which is a ton. And I made one yesterday about an issue I encountered at work where it turned out that we had wasted a whole day trying to track down a bug, and the bug was that the name had a space in it, that it couldn't handle spaces. Uzi, we're outside my trading hours now. Going to run. Yeah, thank you for stopping by, Uzi. I'll take a look, closer look at all that. Anyways, so that's kind of the funny content. I've made some other stuff about just like the S&P going back and forth and being really confusing and making it funny. So that's where it's like the primary goal of the video is to make you laugh. Yep. See y'all tomorrow. You are in showbiz. Well, yeah, it is, because I really think when I look the conclusion that I've made. Well, how do I put this? I started the YouTube channel to get better at trading. I think it's been very successful in that respect. At the same time, I've always just wanted to do well on, I find it really fun and challenging to build up social media accounts and to try and make money off of YouTube and things like that. But the audience, the number of people out there that are like you guys that come in and show up every day, the 50 of you that show up every day and are really truly dedicated to futures trading is quite small. And even if I moved over to doing stocks, which I just don't feel comfortable with my bankroll to be doing stocks like that, or my platform, frankly. But even if I did stocks, I think it would be really hard for me to really, really, truly do well. And there's a lot of competition in that stock space too, right? In futures, there's not a whole lot of competition. That's how we're able to dominate it. So if the case is that there's just not very many people that are serious enough and that are, can really understand our analysis and get into it, then I think that originally I thought, eventually we just kind of expand. So we have futures trading, and then we start talking more about stocks, and then we talk more about general investing and personal finance, and then you kind of become like Graham Stephan. You know what I mean? RJ Will says dominate. I don't want to say dominate, but there are certain searches that if you put them into YouTube, we will be the first result all the time. Right? There are definitely futures channels with more subscribers than us. But when the thing that's funny about it, well, the thing that's interesting about it is that when you look at the monthly searches for futures trading on Google, and then you look at the number of subscribers and like views that we get, they're pretty good. Like we catch like a good 40% of the market, which is amazing in my opinion. So like to catch that percentage of of any one market is like a great achievement, I think. So right. So it's like, okay, we got our niche. We've built out enough in our niche. If we want the channel to continue growing, then we would expand the niche, right? And what I'm realizing is that expanding the niche isn't going to do it. So that's where I'm like, okay, but the thing that we do get that's good is that the niche that we're in is pays well. The advertising pays well, right? So I believe that to grow the channel further, that the right move to make is to go more into entertainment content. But then it's like, okay, but you guys are here for something else. And that's where it's like the brilliant idea that we can have another channel for that stuff. Like we can kind of practice being funny on TikTok. And then hopefully at some point we can have another YouTube channel that is just for parody. Just for parody. What's the difference between futures and buying calls? Futures just deal with commodities. Well, so the difference with options, they're both derivatives. So that's true. They both have expiration dates. Although what happens on the expiration date is very, very different. But I think the thing that really truly makes options unique and what gives them the properties and the kind of trading strategies that people use over in options is that an option contract is associated with a specific price. You know what I mean? There's a strike price with a put or a call, and what the price of the underlying is compared to the strike price that you traded affects what you make on the expiration day. That's the thing that really makes options, right? Whereas futures, I view futures as just like they created an instrument that people can day trade with that is really way better for day trading. This is the way that I look at it. That's like, like straight up. It's just, it's a day trading instrument. They said, hey, we want people to be able to day trade this, but they find it really hard to day trade an index the way that they want to. So we just make a derivative so that they can day trade it. That's what it is. And then people that need to hedge or whatever on an intraday basis can do it. And that's really how it's used, I believe. The number of people that are like hedging and having a contract on for like all month is quite low. And I think that the majority of the action that you see out here, especially when we're selling, and the reason why you see so much more E-mini activity when we're selling, is that people see stocks going down. They don't want to sell their actual stocks, so they come over into the futures and hedge. Okay, I am a new trader. Do you think Jigsaw is a good platform? I can't seem to contact anyone there. Any info is appreciated. Okay, so that's really interesting because, first of all, Peter Davies almost always responds to emails. I don't know about from new customers, but, they have so much information on their YouTube channel. Like, they have like free webinars on their YouTube channel, I think, that you can still watch, and order flow education and things like that. Is it a good platform? I think it is. Now, there are some things in the day trader platform that if it was my only platform, I would feel a little constrained. Primarily all of the programming, right? I program so much, and I feel like it is such an essential part of trading. I don't understand how anybody can expect to be successful without the ability to program, but hey, lots of people do it. And Jigsaw doesn't have that, and I don't think it ever will. Okay, but for the depth of market, it has the best depth of market out there, bar none. And for charts, they have charts in there now, and the charts have all of the major features that you would ever need. And unless you want to do something custom, I think that Jigsaw Day Trader would be the perfect platform for the majority of users. Now, the one big, straight downside to Jigsaw, or that you would have to consider, is that I believe it's like $400-$500 up front to buy, and then to actually execute with Jigsaw, which is where Jigsaw is good, by the way, is the execution part. To actually execute on Jigsaw, you also have to pay a $50 a month fee. Now, you can trade Sim for free, but you have to pay $50 a month to enter live orders, okay? And for some people, you're starting out, that doesn't make sense for them. And then for those people, you probably would want to look at Sierra charts next. And then if you're kind of only charts and you really want to program and try a lot of custom stuff and automated trading, then probably you should go with NinjaTrader 8. If you're swing trading, I don't get where you get that from. Why would so if you're swing trading, the quality of your data feed isn't going to matter nearly as much. You're trading in high time frames. What is it that you're going to see on the CQG chart that you're not going to see on the TT, or that you're going to see on the TT chart that you're not going to see on the CQG? That doesn't make any sense at all. We'll say, though, TT probably does have the best data feed. I think that the day trader DOM is better, but almost everything else about TT is best in the industry. It won't display your actually price. What? You don't like? So are you saying you don't like the way that it displays your average cost basis, particularly after you've taken some profits? Is that what you're talking about? Because I do remember a couple of days ago, a bunch of you guys here talking about that. And since that's not something that I do on those other platforms, it's not something that I get into often, but I'm sure that there's ways around those problems. Okay, so we got a little bit of a buy there, but they're not quite back up to the highs again. This does look to me, I mean, so we got a full on high R squared move. So that's good. Given the environment and the context and everything, we could have another day like, what was it? Monday? Was it Monday where they just kind of ended up going up all day? Could do it again. Rhythmic use the settlement price, so it changes your position on the software. Therefore, it doesn't display your actual price of your position. I don't know how they do it. The way that day trader does it is great because I can see where I break even and I can see where my average price is from the contracts on. And I know that if I am below that average price that I got in, that even though I might be profitable on the overall position, that I'm losing money. I don't know, like when I think about that issue, the thing is that I don't see how where your average cost basis should affect what you end up doing. You know what I mean? Because how profitable or at what price your average position got in has zero correlation to what the market's going to do in the future, right? And I would just go back and look at your actual orders and then be like, okay, where did I actually take them? Like, where was my original? Where did I start doing it and stuff? Unless you remember it, sure. The thing though is that for swing trading, I feel that the platform demands for swing trading are much less, you know? So if I was going to swing trade, I would be far more interested in like having a platform that's really cheap and having a broker that's really good. You know, that's where it might be worth it to look at some of these other brokers like Iron Beam has a platform that's kind of interesting. You know, that's the main one that comes to my mind. TT too. If you don't need the bro features, then just do TT. How much is the basic again? Just use TD Ameritrade. You might get really high commissions on that one, though. Yeah, you can do TT standard for $50 a month. You probably don't need the more advanced features of TT, and so that may be one of your better options. And, you know, the DOM isn't going to matter as much for your swing trades either. I mean, the DOM is going to help your swing trades because you're going to be able to get better execution and better prices using the DOM if you really know how to read it. But you know, the thing that's really going to make your swing trade successful is you really have a reason for it to be moving. TT is a good platform. I just don't recommend it very often because most of the people that come in, it's not a good match for. Yeah, what do they mean by the 1K a month cap on the standard TT with the monthly? 1K a month cap meaning what? Like, you pay 10 cents per turn on the micro? No, that can't be right. Because the exchange fee is more than that, isn't it? I think that they're just saying that they only charge 10%, 10 cents. But the actual round turn is higher than that. Because I think that for me, if it wasn't for the TT commission that they put on micros, it'd be like 40, 50 cents. Yeah, that is the platform fees on top of all the others. But what is the 1K a month cap, and what is the difference between the $50 a month subscription and the $700 a month subscription? Because they're both standard. That I don't understand. You use both Sierra and TT? That's kind of weird. I guess if you had some indicators and stuff on Sierra charts and you didn't want to go and make them in TT. Well, E-mini sure has chopped. When did we get out of our last trade? 26? So we got out about 4 points too early. What should we put in today's title? Maybe the 700 a month is for no commissions or something. I see. So if you didn't want to pay the fee, the $700 a month just gives you no commissions. That's the difference. I don't reach that ever. Well, you're certainly never going to reach that doing doing micros. You're probably not going to reach that doing swing trading either. Like, you got to remember that the audience that really started it for TT was those DOM traders way, way back in the day, right? Like, 2000 era. Because you gotta. I don't think that a lot of retail traders realize that around the time that we started looking at the market, or at least I started, like 2008, the markets really changed. And in 2008 in particular, robots really took over much more than before. Like, a lot of, like when you listen to Anthony Crudele talk about it, it sounds like that by that point the robots had already pushed him out. But there was a lot of people, like we talk about level 2 is a way to make money and everything. Well, it was. Like, there was a day when there are things I can teach you about how to trade the level 2 that alone, if you were dedicated and fast, you could make money from doing. But not anymore because of the robots. And I would say that it was dying, and then by 2008 it was like truly dead after that. And that's where TT built up their initial audience. So they still have a lot of people on TT that are using algorithmic assisted trading that are market making. And I think that's why they set their fee structure up the way they do. The retail trader has a $50 cap? Really? I don't know how to make use of level 2 other than just being like, ooh, that one has a bigger green thingy than the other. Well, but that is definitely one edge that you can get, right? Is if the number of contracts on, so there's 2658 at 29, and there's 1601 at 29.5. So at the moment, although it's pretty equal, it is more likely to tick up next than it is to tick down. Okay, so that just changed. Now it's more likely to tick down than it is to tick up. And if that gets below, like, say, 500, the chances of orders coming in and selling to clear that price are much higher. So you can wait until it's low and then hit into it as it's about to get cleared. And if you do it right, hopefully it will tick down and you will have a short where if you so choose, it will then be 29 offer and 28.5. And so if you so choose, you can buy back into it and scratch it. And if it works well, then what you should see immediately after that is pulling at 28.5, stacking at 29, and it keeps going. And so it's tedious, but you basically, every time that you see the edge, this is called catching the edge. So every time that you see the edge, you hit into it, and then if it goes, it goes. And if it doesn't, you scratch. And that was the sort of things that they were doing. That's interesting, House. And then there's somebody in Discord yapping a lot, but I don't think it's anybody we know. There was a little bit of an attempt to go higher there, but that fizzled out really quickly. Wall Street Bet guys trading QQQ. I saw there was an article on Zero Hedge about what were retail traders trading and how are they doing it, and they were discovering that retail traders were starting to hedge their positions with options the way that professionals do and stuff. And they were talking about how they would trade QQQ and stuff. It was kind of interesting. Yeah, GameStop don't look so hot. Not quite 20% down, but it's getting close. ARK also not doing so well. Tesla able to pull out a profit today, though. Anyone see the article comparing QQQ to Cathy? No, I haven't seen that. What? I've read a lot of stuff about the distribution of Cathy Wood's portfolio and the risk associated with the positions that they have, because they have very large positions in very small names. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to read someday that fund just completely blew up and it having a negative impact on the market overall when it does. Luckily for her, though, we live in a world where central bank stimulus means the stocks only go up, and most of the time, at least, they go up. And well, it's time for me to get going, guys. I got some work to do. Some interesting things to look at today, too. So I will see you guys tomorrow. This week is going by quickly. I gotta think. I've got to make a video this weekend. So I haven't made one the past few weekends because I've been watching the baby. I'm gonna be watching the baby again, but this time I'm just gonna have to be like, record while they're sleeping. But I think I know what I want to do. So, all right. See you tomorrow. Stay profitable.